This is Samantha Johnson here, and this is my Codes and Ciphers presentation. So, what mine is about is the Egyptian hieroglyphs and the Rosetta Stone. So, let's get started. So, the history of the Rosetta Stone, it was originally discovered by the Napoleon's forces in 1798. I've also seen that it was discovered in 1799, but I decided to go with 1798 instead. So the first stone, that was at first taken to Cairo, but they didn't want the British forces to get it, so they took it to Alexandria. But after a while of, they finally handed it over to the British, where they shipped it to Britain, and it is now displayed in the British Museum. So, cool information about the Rosetta Stone is, as you can see, the first part is ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs, and then the second part is Demotic, which is a simplified form of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphic writing, so they just wanted to write faster. So it's also of or relating to the common people, and is written simplified form of ancient Egyptian hieratic writing. And the third one is Greek, which was starting to come around back then. It's about 2,220 years old. The last time hieroglyphs were ever used was 396 AD. And Egypt wants it back, most likely because it is the most visited attraction in the museum. The British gave them a fully detailed version of it, but Egypt still wants the original one back. The encryption, all about hieroglyphs, as you can see. For all the hieroglyphs, every picture has a meaning or a word attached to it. So, if you were spelling my name, which is Sam, you would do the S, and then you would do the A. So you would do a line, and then an eagle-looking thing, and then an owl. You can try and spell your name all different ways. So, yeah. Some cool facts about hieroglyphs. Obviously, a single picture symbol could stand for a whole word or just a sound. They had no vowels, no punctuations, no spaces. Yeah, and they could be written from top to bottom or in both directions, right to left or left to right. So, if you were trying to read it, it might be a bit difficult. There are over 700 hieroglyphic symbols in the ancient Egyptian language, alphabet, so that's a lot, yeah. My favorite part is that hieroglyph actually means holy writing, because back then priests and I think it was kings were the only ones who were able to read and write. So, yeah. The decryption, they first went Undeciphered, the Greek part of it, mostly because it was the easiest to decipher and it was the closest. But at the time, Greek was the language of the court and the government, of the descendants of Ptolemy, which was Alexander's general. It turned out it was just about these priests from every part of the kingdom, and they came on the first anniversary of the coronation of the young Ptolemy, king of all Egypt, on March 196. But it's just saying that the priests will give support to the new king, which is only 13, in exchange for certain privileges. So, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't want to follow a king who was 13 years old. Part 2 of the decryption is those two people did much of the same thing. They started to search for Ptolemy's name in the mnemonic section, but As you can see, they did that by isolating the spots that were in the same location as the Greek. So if the... What is it? So if Ptolemy's name in the Greek was in the right-hand corner, then they would look in the right-hand corner of the Demotic. So, let's see. They found that they realized that the names in the Demonic seemed to be written alphabetically, so they thought that all of the Demonic script was alphabetic. They ended up finding words like Greek, Egypt, and Temple, but in fact, it wasn't all alphabetic. So, part 3 of the decryption, as you can see, Stacy does deserve some credit. He made the important suggestion that the names inside the hieroglyph cartouches would were also spelled alphabetically, as in Demonic, but he was led to that by one of his Chinese students, who told him that the foreign names had to be written phonetically in Chinese with a special sign to indicate that the characters were being reduced to their photonic value without any logographic value. So the cartouche is the ancient Egyptian hieroglyph equivalent of a special sign in Chinese. So, Christian part 4. So, the person who ended up helping all of this was a guy by Thomas Young. He ended up finding the phonetic characters Ptolmes that were used to write the Greek name Ptolemaios. But he also noticed that these characters resembled the equivalent ones in the Demotic script. So he went on to find 80 different similarities between the hieroglyphic and Demotic. First, was very important because everyone always thought that they were entirely different things. So, I know this looks big, but you don't have to read it all. The one guy up here in the green, he ended up starting where Young had left off, and he did an entire list of Egyptian symbols with their Greek equivalents. So, but he ended up just doing the same thing that they did with the Demotic script, just seeing where they all were and seeing where their pair would be in the other language. But as you can see, he was the first Egyptologist to realize that the symbols were not only alphabetic, but syllabic, and in some cases determinative, meaning that they depicted the meaning of the word itself. So he was one that established that the hieroglyphic text of the Rosetta Stone was a translation from the Greek, not, as had been thought, a translation from Egyptian into Greek. But but more importantly, he understood Coptic, which is Demotic, under the form of Demotic. He was able to translate the meaning of the ancient Egyptian words. So, simplify things. 5 people ended up working on the stone and coming together to solve it. That guy was the one who brought most of it all together. Yes, they cracked the code. They had to do, as you now know, they went from Greek to Demotic and then to hieroglyphs. If it wasn't for what they did, then we wouldn't know anything about Egypt. So, these are all the sources that I used. Yeah. That was fun. That is the end of this. Have a nice day, guys.